hello now. Hey, everybody. Hey. You are?
Jim Wieser.
All right, we're tested. All right, go back to
go.
the music for a second. Thanks a lot to Joe Cimino, a PNW student, and he is a producer for this podcast. It's called the Wieser Podcast. It features Jim Wieser, who has been in Democratic politics mostly all of his adult life. And I just talked to Jim and see what he has to say, and there's plenty going on in this world. Jim, thanks for coming in.
Yeah, anytime. Love it.
Hey, let's go straight to the topic du jour. First of all, here we are live on the radio here locally in Hammond, Indiana, and live on my TV. We rent the JED TV Sports Network to do this live, and we're also live on YouTube. So if you do want to call and you happen to catch this at around 11 o'clock on August 28th, you can call us at 219-845-1100. But I don't know, a few hours ago now, I had on the congressman from this area, which is Frank Mervan. He is a Democratic congressman. And the topic du jour with our conversation, and I think is probably going to be this one, is that J.D. Vance, the Vice President of the United States, has come into Indiana and has prompted the Indiana legislature to redistrict in the, just in the middle of with no census or anything, just redraw the lines so that the Republicans can get more representatives. So I think right now there's 9 and 7 of them are Republican, and they want at least 8. And it'd be kind of hard to do it in Indy, the way to draw the line, but they might be able to. But probably a little bit better odds doing it up here in the 1st District. It's getting national attention, but essentially, as was discussed, they're coming out to get Frank Mervan out and put in a Republican. Your initial thoughts on that situation?
Oh, man, there's so many thoughts on that situation, from the global thought of just the idea of redistricting in a non-census year, in the middle of the censuses, I guess it is, or the census, is to simply gain a majority for a political party, in my opinion, is just so wrong and such a foreign concept to how we think we govern here, how we used to govern here. I don't think we do anymore, but how and that's one part of the issue. The other part of the issue is the specifics about Indiana, and I'd like to talk to that for a second. Not only did J.D. Vance come in here, but a delegation of the Republican legislature, led by the Speaker of the House and the President Pro Tem of the Senate, met with, as I understand it, President Trump the other day, and had a discussion with him about the redistricting. I get a kick out of looking at the articles in the newspaper today that talk about all the things they talked about. And, oh, yeah, by the way, right towards the end, they threw in redistricting. There's, if you buy that, then, I got a bridge I can sell you here in Lake County, because that's crap. That's not true at all.
I mean, to go back to the beginning of that, I think that the reason that it's being done in Texas and then Indiana, possibly the next one, is that I think President Trump and his crew anticipate that they're going to lose some seats and they may lose control of the House.
No
That's what
doubt.
the basis is, right?
No, totally. They can use other thoughts and ideas as to why they're doing it, but obviously that's it, and it's apparent and it's obvious to everybody. I mean, it's no different. Trump says, "Get me 5 seats," just like he told the Secretary of State in Georgia, "Find me whatever it was, 1,100 votes or whatever it is."
11,700
11,000
votes.
votes. 11,700 votes. That's because that's how they govern, and that's just simply wrong. It's just because what you're doing is you're going to disenfranchise voters. You're going your people in certain classifications just simply aren't going to have their votes counted. It's completely wrong, completely foreign to how we should act as political parties and how we should govern. I've advocated for years, even when I was the chairman of the Democratic Party here, and took some flack and heat from my own party, I've advocated for independent redistricting commissions. I think it's the only way to go, and that I think it's a noble concept. It seems to fall on deaf ears, but to specifically get to this, so it's not enough for the Republicans to have 7 of the 9 congressional seats, both of the Senate seats, the governor's office, every state office, and a supermajority in the legislature. It's never enough for them. It's never enough. And now they want to take one more congressional seat and turn that Republican. It's the wrong way to govern. And I might point something out. Early on, if you'll recall, about a week ago, 10 days ago, I think it was the Indianapolis Star. They approached the members of the Republican members of the Indiana legislature and said, "What do you think about this? Are you for redistricting?" And they had about 9 or 10 of them that said, "No, we're not so sure. You'd like to think we've got some other issues to deal with. We've got some other issues to deal with. Don't think so." Well, they go out to D.C., they come out, and they're in lockstep. They're in lockstep. And, now I understand it. Now I get why we want to do it. This is a state, folks. This state, Indiana, just passed what I would consider a version of the Big Beautiful Bill, or whatever he's redesignated it, rebranded it now as, in Senate Bill 1 here, that is putting a ridiculous burden on communities throughout the whole state to operate fiscally responsibly and financially, because it's I think you've seen the reports. The town I live in, town of Cherville, is going to lose $3.6 million. Others are going to lose much more, larger cities, of course, and they need to be addressing that issue and the other issues, and instead they're screwing around with this redistricting to get one more congressman, not because it's good for Indiana, not because it's good for the constituents or for the voting public, because it's good for Donald Trump. Period. End of story.
I agree with that. And I was initially, when it came up, I was reading some of the comments, and I host this Democratic show, but I also have, the Republican show, and I get certain, sometimes they pull back the curtain a little bit in other areas, and I'm like, all these guys are against it. They don't want to put themselves out there. They're like, what, we're going to redistrict just to get rid of Frank Mervan, and we're going to change all of our 250 years of history and tradition? This doesn't make any sense. I mean, literally, I couldn't find one person that was for it on the Republican side. That has changed.
Sure.
And the external pressure on Hoosiers and Hoosier lawmakers has worked, and I suspect that part of it's money and part of it's threats that we'll come after you or something
primary,
like that. Primary, that kind of stuff. But I'm very surprised that is happening. And if you're let's say a Republican state legislator, Senate or the House, what would be your fear? Of why would you not want to do the census thing? You had reluctance, and why were they all reluctant in the first place? In other words, we know that it's changing, but in the first place, almost 9 out of 10, I agree with you. We're reluctant to do this.
Yep. Because what goes around comes around. What goes around comes around. This is not going to be a Republican majority forever. And you could see already, what it's causing. California is going to redistrict, or has already submitted their redistricting proposal to gain at least 5 Republican Democratic seats. And the only difference being that California has it in their constitution that the matter has to be placed as a referendum to the public. That almost has some legitimacy to it, because they're not just taking it away from the people. They're reacting and responding to what the Democrats, the Republicans are doing, and what the president's doing in Texas. But the safeguard for the electorate and the opportunity for the electorate to participate is that in their constitution it says you can't do this without putting it to a vote of the people. But that's what's happening. So it's going to be tit for tat. It's going to be we want 5 here, we're going to take 5 here. We want 1 over here, we're going to get 1 over there. And it takes away. Where's the governing in this country? Where is the governing? All it is make sure we have the power, and make sure that we go after every person who's opposed to us, and get them under investigation, get them fired, get them terminated. I mean, my God, they were arguing, they were going back and forth at 1 and 2 o'clock this morning. I mean, over the firing of the CD, or the alleged firing and or resignation or whatever of the CDC director. Trump's own choice, and I don't mean to digress, but Trump's own person. She got put in there a month ago, approved by the United States Senate a month ago, and because RFK doesn't like her and doesn't like her position on vaccine, he says she's got to go. She says, I'm not going to go. And I think it was the first thing came out like 10:30 or 11 o'clock last night. Then they said, you're gone. 1 o'clock in the morning, her lawyers are saying, no, she's not gone. What are we doing in this country? We're not addressing any issues. We're not addressing trying to correct the big, beautiful bill so that Medicaid isn't destroyed, so that hospitals aren't going to be closed, all the negatives about that. We're worried about who's going to get fired, who isn't listening to what we want to do, and it builds up such a strong sense of fear. It's governance by fear, and that all the legislators say, I don't want to deal with it. I mean, if all it means is we just have to do a redistricting proposal, okay, we'll do it. I don't like it. I think it's wrong, but we'll do it. We'll do it because everybody is afraid. They're governing by fear. They're governing by retribution. And that's what we end up with. So we end up in the state of Indiana, where we have so many issues and so many things to deal with. We end up worrying about, are we going to have 7 Republican congressmen or 8? The absurdity of it is beyond description.
There may be an element of just like, shake your head at it, but it is real. And it is real discussion on my shows, and it is real discussion at kitchen tables and in bars, and very well might come down to this district. And, really, I mean, it kind of looked like the vice president and all of this travel and all of this is going on for one reason, and that's to spank Frank. And it's kind of interesting because what they're lining up is I call it the battle of 2 power forwards. Now, Frank Mervan, we just had on, Democrat, mildly related, like most people in this area with him, and I've known him for a long time. The guy he ran against last time, Randy Niemeyer, often, he announces games here and is, by all intents and purposes, pretty decent guy. Same with Frank. But in the end, they're both 6'5" power forwards, both of them. And they were both mean and nasty under the boards. They had that reputation of pushing people around, and that's what they did. They used their size and intimidated both of them. Now they might go at it with a different squiggly line. What do you foresee if it becomes that matchup? What do you foresee of that?
Well, it's a good question. It's a little difficult to predict because we have no idea how the lines are going to be drawn. I don't know if the lines are going to be drawn to try to make it up more to the east and try to cut in a little bit to the 2nd District, which is a pretty safe Republican district, or are they going to take the lines down south as they did a number of years ago against Pete Visclosky and found that it didn't make a darn bit of difference. They got clobbered. The Republicans got clobbered when they moved Pete into Newton County and Jasper County and I think Stark County and those counties down there. Which way are they going to go? And that makes a difference. And in my opinion, that makes a difference. And I'm not trying to script
No,
the issue,
I mean, this is good. People aren't really talking about the specifics. Yeah. Well, do they go south or do they go east?
Or do they go east?
So let's analyze that. What happens if they go east into, I guess it's already Porter County. You'd be almost going in further into LaPorte County, almost to South Bend then.
Yeah, they'd have to go. That's exactly what they'd have to do. And I don't think that could be exclusive. If it were I in the Republican Party, that wouldn't be an exclusive move. I think I'd combine it with some other moves. But they could well go in LaPorte County all the way to South Bend. Now, how they analyze that's going to impact the 2nd District, I'm not so sure. I think that would certainly make the 2nd District a little bit better for the Democrats.
I was going to say there's a lot of Democrats in and around South Bend and Elkhart.
There are.
And that's where Pete Buttigieg was from.
Yeah.
Democratic mayor.
Yep. And they are. And so I would say if I had to prognosticate, I'd say it's more likely that they would try to do the southern run, especially if Randy's going to run again, who's from the south part of this county, and so the name recognition is more significant down there than it would be if you're moving to LaPorte County or doing that. So that's an issue. But take a look at what's happening in this country. They can't be, and I agree, special elections are a different breed and a different animal. I agree. But last night, a lady in Iowa, Caitlin Dray, Carly Dray, runs in a race where less than a year ago, Donald Trump won that district by 11 points. Won that Senate district. She ran for a state Senate district in Iowa. She won last night by 11 points. Now it's easy for me to say as a Democrat, well, that's a 22-point swing. We all know that's not. It's kind of comparing apples and oranges. However, earlier this year in Iowa, for another state Senate district, gentleman ran, and he won by 12 points, I think, and Trump won that district by 21 points. And this Democrat won by 12 points. They can't be blind to the fact, and they could say all they want. Like I saw them on television last night. Well, you know what this is all about.
Caitlin Dray. It was
Caitlin Dray. Yeah,
that's what
Caitlin,
I thought.
Sorry.
I want to correct you.
Thank you. I couldn't quite remember.
Yeah.
And so last night they're talking and saying, well, geez, of course the Democrats won. They went out, almost making it sound like dirty politics as to how, and it's politics 101. Go out, knock on the doors, get volunteers, and raise money. And that's just, if you don't do that, you don't even belong in the game. And they're saying, oh, well, they just did that. That's not going to happen. And then I remind people, last year in Wisconsin, when that Supreme Court was divided right down the middle, and they had the race for the one seat that's going to swing it one way or another, Elon Musk went in with $15 million. And the Republicans put in volunteers, thousands and thousands of volunteers, which was okay if they do it. And they got kicked. They got their butts kicked. Something's going on out there, out in the world right now, and people are unhappy with policy making or the lack thereof, and it's reflected in approval ratings, and it's reflected in the ratings of, do you believe in this piece of legislation, or how strongly do you feel about this, or do you agree, that kind of stuff. So I would say, if we're gonna, if we have to have at it, we'll have at it, and because it's always been for the Democrats a turnout problem. Our big issue is a turnout problem. They're giving us more ammunition to create a large turnout than we could expect, or we should expect, or that we've experienced. And I think that that's going to be a real deciding factor.
Well, I think what you're getting at, and what I got from the Republicans who are like reluctant about this, gosh, we don't really want to do this, man.
Yeah.
We got everything. Everything we need.
I know.
And Frank Mervan's known as a centrist. He's a centrist.
And he is.
He is. I mean, that's what he's known as. And so most people are like, yeah, there's someone. And, even Republicans voted for the guy, right? So it is almost the kind of thing that it's like, hey, things are going well, but if you go and do this and they redraw that just to spank Frank, I agree with you. I think that is poor strategy here locally in Indiana, but it's not poor strategy in Washington. So the local people, the people that are here have to decide, do I want to please Donald Trump, or do I like what we have already and we're all in charge here? And I think that's a difficult position to put Republicans in that are elected here locally.
I couldn't agree with you more. If you want to see real challenges in state representative races and state Senate races, I mean real challenges supported by money, challenges with good candidates and qualified candidates, challenges with a lot of people ginned up and fired up. Do that. Just do that.
Well, a lot of times anymore in the national shows on both sides, people are like, well, who's on the right side of history? And I have never seen an issue in Indiana that even approached that level. Like, nobody's going to get mad about that. No one's going to get mad about that. But I do this show for 20 years now, and I take everybody's calls and I listen to people out in the community. And I'm pretty convinced that there's some really hardcore MAGA Donald Trump supporters that call my show, and there's really hardcore Democrats. That's all it is, and everything Donald Trump does is evil. But I get the feeling that there's this group in the middle that is kind of quiet, and every once in a while one of them calls. And I get the feeling that group in the middle had kind of narrowed for years, but now it's kind of bigger. And what has happened from a broadcasting or streaming standpoint was, I'm like, I can't, I had doubts. I'm like, I can't do what WJOB has done for 102 years, which is everybody comes in and swims in a fishbowl, same fishbowl, and we just talk about things and we move on. It's impossible to do that when 45% of the people go one way and 44 go the other, and they got 9% in the middle that are like, hey, man, let's have a reasonable conversation. I think that's expanded in the last 2 to 3 years. There's a lot of people, myself included at times, that very disappointed with what the Democrats have done and the complacency and becoming the party of the elitists and not listening to what was really going on in the union halls. that, many of them advertise here. And the same thing, I have the same kind of judgment about the extremism of what has gone in the Republican Party. And there's more and more people. If that's expanding, does that group in the middle, are they still pissed at the wokeism of the Democratic Party more than they're wary of the extremism? That's a huge. It's kind of making me want to kind of stay in the game because I doubted if I could continue. And I think of late, in the last 6 months, I've been able to reignite those discussions where people will listen to both sides. Does that make sense?
Sure, it does.
Maybe I'm wrong.
No, you're not wrong. To the extent of that's occurring is subject to debate, but it's occurring, and you're correct. And I grab this because this demonstrates to me, or this supports your argument right here. This is the monthly magazine of the Indiana State Bar Association, of which I'm a member as a lawyer. It's called Res Gestae. For the first time in the many years I've practiced law, and for the first time that I've been a member of the Indiana State Bar Association, they did an entire article, an entire magazine. The whole magazine is on the rule of law. And I'm proud to say that the president of the State Bar Association is Mike Jositis, who I'm sure you know, Mike's been a lawyer many years here in Lake County.
Sports. I know through sports. I'm basically a sports guy trying to do a politics show.
Right.
He sued the IHSA a number of times.
And has been very successful. He's the president of the State Bar. Both Mike and I have been former presidents of the Lake County Bar, but he's the president of the State Bar. And he wrote an introduction to this magazine that's incredible, that I'm sure all my colleagues here in Lake County are incredibly proud of Mike and proud of the magazine. But there's articles in here from comments from state Supreme Court justices, former state Supreme Court justices, other experts, and the bottom line is that's what they're talking about from a different angle, from the angle of the rule of law and how it's being impacted and maybe even ignored in some instances.
By kind of extremism on both sides.
By extremism on both sides. Not saying, but for the Bar Association, which is a conservative organization, when I say conservative, I don't mean conservative in Republican Democrat. I mean little c, conservative. It's a conservative organization by and large, and that's how they have to be. And I get it. And it was always, when I was president of the Bar Association here in Lake County, I would always get a little frustrated at statewide conventions and stuff like that because I thought they should be more aggressive, and that's probably more my political instincts than anything else. But for them to come out, and if you read through this, and I don't want to spend a lot of time on it, but if you read through it, it's pretty clear that the Bar Association is saying we got a major problem in this country that is being evidenced by what you're talking about. And something's got to be done because we're losing governance by the rule of law. It is dissipating. It's governance by it's all transactional. It's governance by when you get up on this side of the bed. What are you going to do today? Who are you going to fire? Who are you going to have an investigation against? There's no policy or rhyme or reason to a lot of the policy that it goes on that impacts on the rule, or how are you going to test the rule of law? What judge are you going to cuss out this time? What judge are you going to say is an idiot this time? How long is this going to happen till we realize that we're losing the core foundation of our democracy. And that's what this article was about. And this whole magazine was about. And I was very proud of the organization for doing it, and certainly proud of Mike for leading the way.
He's Jim Wieser. That's a big topic. I mean, the parallels are there. Here I have the local media and own the biggest one that for discussion around here. And I felt up until just recently that I'm like, it's just something, it's going to collapse. People can't talk to each other. I feel it's shifting back, and I won't give up on the 102-year tradition. I just sometimes I feel like it doesn't have to be me because I don't know. It's so frustrating. That's changing. Now you have this with Justice and some of the other little seat conservative judges kind of saying the same thing. It's almost like two big institutions saying the same thing, media and the law. Hey, that'll do it for today. It seems like we just get started. We didn't get to talk about the civil rights, but we will. Maybe we'll start doing one every week and get a little bit more into it.
Focus a little, right.
Yeah, we'll have a little bit more time. But he's Jim Wieser, longtime Democrat. I'm Jed, and I own WJOB here. And I just kind of talk with them about what's going on with Democratic politics. Until next time, we will see you later.